Hey class, this is the video for combining like terms. Remember, we're going to be doing this notes video in class together. So if you are sick or gone from class is the only reason you really need to be watching this video, unless you're using it as an extra refresher. All right, so combining like terms. So first we're just going to talk about what like terms are. I wanted to reference like a simple example. So like terms would be like, cats and kittens and kitties. They're all cats. These are all apples. Even though some of them are a little different, they're all apples. So these are like terms. If you had a group of cats, you could add them all together. If I had this apples, even though they might be all different kinds of apples, I'd say I have 4 apples. So you can combine like terms. Like terms in math have the same variable part. So like 4y squared and negative 3y squared are alike because they're both y squareds. X, 7x, and negative 9x are alike because they are all x, a single x, or x to the first power. A 24z cubed and a negative 8z cubed both have the z cubed. So the variable pieces are the same on all of them. So then they are called like terms. So each of these groups are alike. And then you would be able to combine them to find the total like you can do with apples. And then not like terms are like, a cat and a dog, an elephant and a giraffe. I wouldn't be able to say, how many dogs do you have here? You wouldn't be able to combine these. You would only be able to say, I have 1 dog and 1 elephant, 1 giraffe, and 1 cat. So these are not like terms. Same with the fruit here, an apple, a banana, and some grapes. They're all different. I wouldn't be able to say, you have this much fruit, how many apples do you have? You only have 1 apple still. So not like terms in math are like 5x and 5x squared. So they do not have the same variable part. This one has just a single x and this one has an x squared. They are not the same. You wouldn't be able to combine them. Y squared and 8x squared. They are, one's an x, one's a y. So they are not alike. You would not be able to combine those terms together. Z squared, z squared, and z cubed. They're all z, but they all have different exponents, and so they are not alike. So you cannot, they're also not like terms. You cannot combine them together. So for like terms, you need to have the same variable part. So let's practice. Circle the like terms in each set. So in this set, the only 2 terms that are in common are a negative 3x and a 5x. Those 2 are the like terms because those 2 both have an x in common. Nothing else is the same. In this example over here, what is in common here are the a, the 4a, and the 10a. They all have the same variable piece, which is a. So those are like terms, and you would be able to combine those together. When you have a term, let's label it. The number in front of the variable is called the coefficient. And then the m is called the variable. So the 3 is the coefficient and the m is the variable, which means that 3m means that you have m plus m plus m is 3m, or it also means 3 times m. So you have a group of 3m. So 3m is 3 times m, or m plus m plus m. But 3 is the coefficient and m is the variable. We also have what's called an implied coefficient. That's like here, you don't see a coefficient in front of the x. That means it's implied. When you see an x, that's like there's a 1 out front. So an x is the same thing as a 1x. Or a negative x, that means like there's a negative 1 there. So that's like a negative 1x is negative x. That we call an implied coefficient. So if you have an x, you have 1x. If you have a negative x, you have a negative 1x. And so those are implied because we don't typically write that one there. We just call it x. In each statement, we're going to identify the like terms. We're going to write the coefficients and then the constant terms. So a constant term is a term without a variable. So a constant is a term without a variable. That's the only one we haven't addressed so far. So in this example, 4x and negative 3x, that's a comma, so 4x and, or you could say 4x and comma negative 3x are the like terms. Those two are alike. So that means my coefficients here are 4 and negative 3. And then I have an 8 that is a constant. Notice that the 8 does not have a variable with it, so that is a constant term. Over here, I have two groups of like terms. First, I have a 9y and a negative y. So 9y and negative y are like terms. And then also, comma, I have a negative 2x and a 3x, positive 3x. Those are like terms. And then, comma, I also have two constants, negative 5 and a positive 4. I should say negative 5. And, just to keep it consistent, and positive 4, those are like terms as well. So these two terms are alike as well. The coefficients are all the numbers in front of the variable. So I have a 9. For in front of this negative y, my coefficient would be negative 1. In front of this x, it'd be negative 2. And then I also have a 3x, so my coefficient would be 3. So those are all my coefficients. And then my constants are negative 5 and positive 4. And notice that constants are considered alike because they're considered like terms as well because they both do not have a variable term. Okay, so a typical question is to simplify something like this, 2a plus 3b plus 3a. So if you think of A being like apples and B being like bananas, then you have the following situation. You have 2 apples, 3 bananas, and 3 apples. We can see that by counting the like objects, the above can be simplified to 5 apples and 3 bananas, which in algebra is 5a plus 3b. So because the 2a and the 3a are alike, 2a plus 3a is 5a, and then you also have 3b that cannot be combined with the a's, so that's as far as you can simplify it. You can combine the like terms, which would be the a's, and the 3b comes along with it. So let's practice this one as well. First, I have a string of subtraction. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this using adding the opposite. So I have a 2a minus 5a, so plus negative 5a, and then minus 1, so plus negative 1, and minus 2 would be plus negative 2. Then I have some like terms. 2a plus negative 5a are alike, so 2a plus negative 5, that's 2 positives. Remember, 2 positives and 5 negatives. And so a positive and a negative cancel, so when your signs are different, you subtract. 5 minus 2 is 3, and then it's more negative, so it's going to be negative 3a. So if you have 2 a's plus negative 5 a's, you're going to have negative 3 a's left. And then we have 2 constant terms that are alike, negative 1 plus negative 2, so this time it is 1 negative plus 2 more negatives, so they're all the same sign, so you add like normal, be plus negative 3 and keep the sign. Or you could write that as negative 3a minus 3, because adding a negative is the same thing as minus. So first thing I'm going to do here is rewrite this again. So 2 plus 3 minus 3x would be plus negative 3x. Then minus 4x would be plus negative 4x. Then I'm going to combine my like terms. So I always do my variable terms first. Negative 3x plus negative 4x. They're both negative. They have our like terms, so add 3 plus 4 is 7. So negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7, so negative 7x. And then we have two constant terms, and 2 plus 3 is 5. It's positive 5, so it'll be 7x plus 5. If it was negative 5, then it would be plus negative 5. Okay, we'll do a couple more. Start by rewriting this. 2 minus 4 would be 2 plus negative 4. Minus 2m would be plus negative 2m. And then minus negative 2m would be plus 2m. So remember, when you have two negatives in a row, that does change to plus, adding the opposite. Then identify your like terms. So I have negative 2m plus positive 2m. And now these are opposites. I have the same coefficient, but opposites, negative plus positive. So that means that there would be 0 m's left. So there is no more m term left. These actually cancel. Negative 2m plus 2m is 0. So then 2 plus negative 4 would be 2 plus negative 4 would be negative 2. So you would have 4, take away the positive 2, there'd be 2 negatives left, and that would be it. You could have negative 2 plus 0m, but then remember that 0m means 0 times m, and 0 times anything is 0, and so you're left with just the negative 2 anyway. Okay, I do have a subtraction in this one as well, so I'm going to rewrite this. Negative a plus 3b minus 2a is plus negative 2a plus negative 4b plus 5. I'm going to combine my like terms. When I have two variable terms in the same expression, I combine them either from highest exponent to lowest or in alphabetical order. So in this case, I'm going to combine the a's first. So a negative a and a negative 2a. Remember the implied coefficient. A negative a means that I have a negative 1a. So negative 1 plus negative 2 is negative 3a. And then 3b plus negative 4b. So that's 3 positives and 4 negatives. There'd be a negative 1b left over. And then I have a plus 5 left that doesn't combine with anything. So this can be written like this, or you could write it as negative 3a minus b plus 5, because remember, a minus b is the same thing as a minus 1b, and a plus a negative is the same thing as minus. So either way is acceptable. I'm going to rewrite this one. 5x minus negative 7 is going to add the opposite, is going to be plus 7y plus 6x. Minus 10 will be plus negative 10. Minus 5y will be plus negative 5y. And then I'm going to combine like terms. X comes before y, so I'm going to do that first. 5x plus 6x would be 11x. And then we have, 7y plus negative 5y. So we have 7 positives and 5 negatives. So that 7 minus 5 is 2. 7's bigger, so it's positive 2y. And then we have one term left, plus negative 10. So you can add plus negative 10 or just minus 10 at the end. And that would be the simplified expression. So combining like terms. All right. Your turn. Give it a try. Rewrite it so that you rewrite subtraction to adding the opposite, and then combine the terms that are alike.